Let me ask you a question, Cuffy. At any time during the initial stages of your indictment involving this whole Tammy Cowins thing, did you talk to Big Meech or did you send a message to Big Meech in any way to tell him or to alert him of what was going on?
We sent Big Meech certified mail. Big Meech sent me up and Tammy sent me up with the state.
Oh my God, you will not believe what just happened. Big Meech, the legendary BMF kingpin, has been completely exposed. And honey, the receipts are absolutely wild. After 50 Cent dropped those bombshell papers suggesting Meech was involved in snitching, the internet literally went into a total meltdown. But where did all this jaw-dropping info actually come from? Well, here's the tea. 50's got former BMF associates right by his side spilling all the piping hot inside information.
I just gotta wait to holler at Tammy before, you know what I'm saying, I know where we at with that. And Tammy is a government informant. So when he said that, I was like, Tammy, what you mean Tammy? Like, nigga, you ain't heard what's going on with her?
But listen to this. Big Meech is absolutely not tolerating any of this drama, and the word on the street is that he's about to show 50 exactly what it means to be a real drug kingpin. This whole situation is beyond messy, so let's dive right into all the scandalous details. One thing about 50 is that he spares absolutely no expense when it comes to exposing someone, but he might seriously want to dial things down when it comes to Big Meech because, trust me, he is not your average opponent. For those of you who don't know, Demetrius Flenor, aka Big Meech, is the notorious national leader of the Black Mafia family. He started moving substances in the form of $50 bags back in the 1980s along with his younger brother Terry, Southwest T. Flenor. By the early 2000s, these two had completely expanded their operation to several states, including Michigan, Georgia, Florida, California, Louisiana, and so many others. Of course, that meant crazy money that could definitely alert the feds, so the brothers thought it would be a brilliant idea to create BMF Entertainment as a promotion agency. It was basically a front for laundering all that money, but the company did actually take on one artist, Blue Da Vinci, who released an album in 2005 titled The World is BMF's. Unfortunately, Meech got completely busted by the feds in October 2003, and he had to trade his luxurious lifestyle for an orange jumpsuit. Now, most people were convinced that Blue was the one who snitched, since he seemed like the weakest link. Plus, he didn't even get taken in with the rest of the BMF members. When the feds arrested Meech in 2003, they put him in handcuffs, but a whole year later, BMF's logistics head, Dexter Sosa Hussey, wasn't making things any better by pointing the finger directly at Blue.
Well, did Blue Da Vinci cooperate or no?
Yeah, he cooperated. I mean, I didn't say it. It was in Miss Mara Shalhoub's book, where his own lawyer said, yeah, if there was anything else that we could do, Your Honor, to help you along with this case, my client would be more than willing to cooperate with you all to help you in this investigation. But now the thing of it is by you admitting what was done, you know what I'm saying, what you done or whatever, but bottom line is, you know, you didn't take the single plea. You went in and was giving them information on that they already had and thought it was cool, but you still, you know, that was part of that. You just confirmed other that the other CIs just done.
FYI, Sosa was talking about when Blue showed up in court, and his lawyer said this absolutely shocking statement. As he's coming up, Your Honor, I did leave one thing out. You had asked some of the other defendants whether or not they had cooperated. Mr. McKnight was one of the individuals who did attempt to cooperate. He was debriefed by the government, but basically he didn't know anything that was useful against the remaining defendants. So that happened before last week. It was months ago, that debriefing, and then we did the safety valve earlier this week. He would have liked to cooperate if he could, but unfortunately he did not really have any useful information. So Blue actually tried to snitch, but the authorities didn't think he had anything worthwhile to share. Now the burning question is, where did the feds really get their information from? Well, after having his name dragged through the mud, Blue finally decided to take on the responsibility of revealing the real culprit. He leaked the paperwork exposing Big Meech during a tell-all interview with Cap Capone News back in 2023.
And then my homeboy that was with me, he was like, Tone Bird, he from BMF too. Tone was like, ask Big Homie what's up with the movie with 50, like what's going on with he from New York. I had to use my New York accent. Yo, what's going on with the 50 Cent movie? So I'm like, oh yo, Meech, what's up with the movie, with the TV show? Like, where y'all at with that? He like, oh man, it's almost done. The contract almost done. It's almost done. We're gonna be starting. They're gonna be, you know, starting to cast it or whatever, right? He was like, I just gotta wait to holler at Tammy before, you know what I'm saying, I know where we at with that. And Tammy is a government informant. So when he said that, I was like, Tammy, what you mean Tammy? Like, nigga, you ain't heard what's going on with her? And they were like, shit, nigga, I heard shit, but whatever it is, that shit ain't got shit to do with me. And he was like, man, I'm gonna hit you back. I'm like, all right, that's the last time I ever talked to him.
And that's how fans were absolutely shocked to learn about Tammy Cowins. She's been Meech's trusted business partner since 2008. In fact, when Meech ended up behind bars, she loyally kept in contact with him, running all kinds of errands for him on the outside. For some reason, Meech decided to reward her for her dedication by signing his life rights over to her. That meant Tammy could sell Meech's life story and make millions, and that's exactly what she did with 50 Cent, becoming the co-producer on 50's hit 2021 TV series BMF. But according to those explosive papers that Blue leaked, Tammy wasn't just getting Meech's name out there, she was secretly working for the feds on the side. She's described as CS1 in the documents, who became a confidential informant for DEA Atlanta in 2009 when she provided crucial information in a money laundering case, which resulted in the successful prosecution and conviction of an individual named Terry White. Around this time, Tammy wasn't getting paid to spill the details about criminals, but her help in putting Terry White behind bars led the DEA to realize that she could be incredibly useful. So her controlling agent, Agent Harry, put CS1 in for an award that would be a percentage of the value of property forfeited by White. And yes, Terry White was a pretty big fish. He was an Atlanta kingpin, and when the cops busted him thanks to her help, they secured the keys to his immense riches, and Tammy got a juicy piece of the pie as well.
It's believed that Terry White grew up in an Atlanta housing project. But when FBI and GBI agents arrested him last night, he was living here, a sprawling $200,000 mansion in Jonesboro. The 27-year-old was in the process of renovating his home, which features an outdoor swimming pool, a full-length basketball court, and more.
Had a media room where there were 24 TV sets on one wall hooked to a satellite dish, and you could hit a button and all 24 TVs would come on.
Agents seized the home and 3 cars which belonged to White, including this $110,000 Rolls Royce, which was paid for in cash. But there was more to be found inside. $47,000 cash and a machine to count the money, thousands in gold jewelry and mink coats, a small catch of ammunition and weapons, including a loaded Uzi.
But here's the absolute kicker. Tammy didn't agree to be an informant because she needed the money, and that's why even the feds thought she was such an unusual informant. In their own words, she had no criminal record, was not a known substance user, did not appear to be motivated by money, and was not looking to get a reduced prison sentence or dismissal of criminal charges. She simply did it because she wanted to get back at White. Apparently, he used her to launder money without her knowledge, and Tammy didn't sign up to be a pawn in anyone's game. But why did Tammy continue to snitch even after the feds put White behind bars? Well, that's going to make perfect sense in just a minute. Meanwhile, Meech was cooking up a scheme of his own behind bars. He met a member of the cartel behind bars, Fidel Suarez. He owned and operated a trucking company in California and had been investigated and arrested without conviction for suspected substance trafficking in 2005 and 2009. Now, Meech's grand plan was to use Suarez's connections to move around illegal substances so he could make some quick money behind bars. But the only problem, his hands were tied behind those 4 walls, and that's exactly where Tammy came in. According to the shocking documents, in September 2011, Flanor requested CS1's help coordinating delivery of a load to be controlled by Suarez, who at that point was already in contact with CS1. CS1 credibly testified that she first met Suarez by telephone when Suarez contacted CS1 to ask how Flanor was doing. So with Tammy fully on board, Meech used her to connect Suarez with his lifelong friend Dion Cuffy Gatling, another major kingpin in the substance game. According to court documents, he was the leader and organizer of the Gatling trafficking organization that brought all kinds of illegal substances to the St. Louis area for distribution from 2009 to 2014. Together, Meech, Suarez, and Gatling planned to move around substances, but what they didn't know is that they had a snitch right in their midst. Tammy was reporting everything back to the feds, and guess what? They eventually managed to use the intel provided by her to put Cuffy in handcuffs on March 13, 2014. He was eventually sentenced to a staggering 27 years in prison for trafficking charges and the use of firearms in furtherance of drug trafficking resulting in death. But get this, Meech didn't face any charges for his role in the deal that went down. And that's exactly why the question most people are asking is, why didn't Meech get indicted for trying to orchestrate this deal when it's crystal clear that the feds knew all about it? Well, that's because Tammy completely denied that Meech had any involvement in the entire thing. According to court documents, Tammy was asked this during a hearing. So specifically in paragraph 8, it refers to a statement under section A that says, CS1 told investigators that Demetrius Flanor coordinated substance distribution arrangements between the two. She had the same adamant answer when asked about whether Meech arranged for Suarez to deliver multiple kilogram quantities of cocaine to Gatling in St. Louis through CS1. Now, she may have protected Meech, but in the feds' books, she could no longer be trusted. And to make matters even worse, she was sleeping with one of the DEA agents working on the case, which completely compromised the entire investigation.
During the course of this informant relationship, she becomes involved romantically with the supervisory special agent over the task force.
That's Keith Crumb.
So in and of itself, that's going to jeopardize everything that they got going on with respect to the investigation. So she ends up receiving like $200,000 as an informant, where he's the one who signed it off. So now he's maintaining an improper financial relationship with an informant, whom he's also maintaining an improper relationship.
Safe to say, Tammy was playing in some seriously dangerous waters, and it eventually came back to bite her. Back in March 2015, Tammy stumbled across defendant Gatling's suppression motion, which could essentially compromise her anonymous identity. That realization absolutely freaked her out, and rightfully so. Gatling was known for being extremely dangerous. In fact, he was convicted for taking out 2 men. According to official records, Gatling organized the 2010 passing of Theodis Howard, all because he made the big mistake of providing information to law enforcement regarding Gatling's brother's trafficking activities. He also had someone take out a man named Terrence Morgan in 2013 in order to prevent Morgan from cooperating with federal law enforcement officers investigating Gatling's trafficking organization. So if Gatling did end up finding out about Tammy, she would have been in real life-threatening danger. Completely terrified, she went to the feds for help, but they didn't do anything. And so Tammy took control of the situation and went directly to visit Meech. Unfortunately, the man she had been loyal to for years wasn't much help either. All he said was that he didn't want his name caught up in this mess. Looks like he didn't want to get on Gatling's bad side either. Anyway, after that disappointing meeting with Meech, Tammy completely switched gears. She did everything in her power to make sure Meech's name was nowhere near the case. In fact, she even accused the agent she was sleeping with of being jealous of her relationship with Meech. CS1 also threatened to circulate the unsworn affidavit to all parties involved, including the undersigned. CS1's unsworn affidavit specifically takes issue with statements in the wiretap affidavit suggesting that Flanner hooked up the deal between Gatling and Suarez. The unsworn affidavit suggests instead that Agent Cromer implicated Flanner because he was jealous of Flanner's relationship. But all those desperate efforts didn't do much for Tammy. See, once Cuffy ended up behind bars, he figured out exactly who put him there. He requested a Franks hearing where he was allowed to cross-examine his accusers, which included everyone from the government agents to informants, aka Tammy. What's more, back in 2023, Blue sat down for another explosive interview with Cap Capone. Only this time he had Cuffy join him from prison via phone call, and he didn't hold back. The real reason Meech didn't get sentenced is because he used third-party cooperation to save his own neck.
You know, a lot of people, man, is thinking that this thing is made up, or this thing is fake, or that I have an axe to grind. You feel me?
Right.
But I'm in here with a 27-year sentence based on Demetrius Flannery, as you all know as Big Meech, and Tammy Cowins, known in the paperwork as CS1.
Right.
Confidential source 1. So what Big Meech did was called a third-party cooperation. So Tammy Cowins signed up to be a DEA informant to give Demetrius Flannery a time cut, plain and simple.
Right. So
okay. So can you break down the story? Like, how do you know this? And you know, how'd you come upon this information?
how do you know? How do you came upon this information though?
We were rewarded what's called a Franks hearing. It's based on a case called U.S. versus Frank. So I would implore your listeners to look the case up. And what a Franks hearing entails is that you're able to cross-examine your accusers, meaning government agents, meaning informants, and so on and so forth, just like a regular trial. So this was testified in court.
Period. Point blank.
This was testified in court, that I became a government informant to give Demetrius Flannery a time cut.
That's what was said on the stand, bro. The lady became a government informant to give Demetrius Flannery.
In fact, Cuffy's own daughter confirmed the shocking claims as well.
Big Meech did a third-party cooperation deal to receive a reduced sentence in his case by setting up a known kingpin from St. Louis named Cuffy. Well, that's the word on the street, so let's get into that. First off, for all y'all who don't know who Cuffy is, he is a known kingpin from St. Louis who did business with Big Meech for over 20 years since 1990. And according to him, he is the first person to ever put $1 million in cash in Big Meech's pockets. And as of today, he claims he was set up by Big Meech, which eventually led to him receiving a 27-year prison sentence. And he claims it all started when Big Meech was in Detroit's county jail when he got indicted in 2005. And while Big Meech was in Detroit's county jail fighting his case, he met a Spanish connect named Fidel Suarez, who had major connections to Mexican cartels out of Los Angeles, California. And Cuffy also claims Fidel was the first target who Big Meech was trying to line up so he can receive a reduced sentence. And Cuffy also claims that the person who Big Meech was using to line up Fidel.
I'm Tammy Gatling. I'm making this recording in regards to my dad. He's Dion Gatling. Most people know him as Cuffy. But I wanted to make this recording so I can shed light on some facts. My dad was set up by one of his best friends, which is Demetrius Flannery, also known as Big Meech. My dad and Meech have been friends for 30 years plus. I've known Meech my whole life. I look at him like an uncle. Like, this situation has been completely devastating on so many different levels, and there's still so many questions that aren't answered. At this point, I can only shed light on what I know for sure to be fact.
And it doesn't seem like anyone was lying because the paperwork straight up proves everything Cuffy's claiming. Apparently back in 2011, Tammy was supposed to target Hispanics involved in the trade. In return, she wouldn't have to testify since the DEA would send them back. But Tammy was more concerned about whether she was going to get paid for her work. That's when the DEA agent said, "You'll get a lot of money." But Tammy cut him off, asking, "Can I get Demetrius Flannery's time cut?" To which the DEA agent replied, "We can work that." Given everything that went down, people find it really hard to believe that Tammy was making all those moves on her own, especially given the fact that Meech voluntarily signed off his life rights to her. I always say if you're hanging with a known snitch, you automatically become a snitch by association, but that's just me. As for anyone wondering why people are only digging into the case now, well, that's because 50 fanned the flames, and when 50 says something, people listen. Also, he's not making things any better by threatening to release a tell-all scandal about Meech being a rat. Safe to say, Meech might just be a rat, but we want to hear from you now. How do you think this situation is going to affect Big Meech in the long run? And are he and Tammy no longer partners? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and make sure to check out this next video.